Welcome back to another episode of To All the Cars I've Loved Before. Hey, it's ready for another installment. And as we roll through the stats, God, it's people from all over the world. I got to tell you, I just get so pleased as punch every time I log in. We have somebody from a new city, state, country, continent, and on and on and on. So thank you for joining us here. Real excited about having today's guest here. How you doing, Doug?
Doing great. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. And let's see, before we bounce into this here, let's introduce today's guest, who's a friend of a friend of a friend of the show.
A friend of a friend of a friend of the show.
Yeah, it's like the Kevin Bacon. It's really our Kevin Bacon rule. If you're more than 6 friends of separation away, we can't have you. But we're real pleased to have Chris on the show. But let me be quiet and pass the baton to my esteemed narrator, Doug, to get us kicked off here.
Yeah. So everybody, welcome back to the show. We have this wonderful gentleman who's going to join us today, Chris, who hails from outside of Dallas. He's got a great background in some really cool cars, been involved in a little bit of the street racing culture, and he's had some cool cars along the way. His next car might be a minivan with his family planning, but he's going to tell us a lot about his growing up with cars and working on them and blowing up engines. It's going to be a great show.
Welcome in, Chris. How you doing today, bud?
Doing great.
Good to hear your voice. Glad to have you. And did we want to say anything more about him? Did we want to kind of bounce into some automotive nuggets here? Talk through a few things we saw on the news? Chris actually has so much going on here that we might truncate the bit about the news because he's got some causes that he espouses and works with, noble extracurriculars, as I like to call them. And of course, we might even get into a street racing culture, possibly losing his life or at least a limb while working on a car. And again, friends of a friend. So without any further ado, let's talk about something that I saw in the news here today. You know, the best automotive news always comes out of Detroit. Okay, so let's talk briefly about a proposed Michigan legislation cracking down on vehicles modified to be louder. I saw that, let's see, and this is from CBS Detroit, so you know it's got to be true. A bill introduced in the Michigan legislature is looking to decrease noise pollution around Metro Detroit, and more particularly along Woodward Avenue. I love how they put the name of the street in here, so somebody's got a very specific bone to pick here. House Bill 5696 was introduced on April 25th, and if passed, would increase fines for motorists who purposely alter a vehicle's exhaust system to be louder than normal. I feel and see Chris seething with the thumbs down. Let me get a little bit further before he jumps to the screen and smacks me around here. The bill was referred to the Committee of Transportation. Quote, "We are looking to do a $500 penalty for the first infraction, $1,000 for subsequent infractions," says State Representative Natalie Price, Democrat from Berkeley, who brought forth the legislation. So what do you think about this? What do we think? Good guy, bad guy? We don't like this? What do you think?
So I'd love to hear Chris's opinion because he might have had some loud cars in the past.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think, Chris?
Well, I think it may be well-intentioned. You know, nobody likes to hear a loud car when you're trying to sleep.
Right.
But the way I see it, if you give the government more rules and regulations, then it's probably a bad thing. Because then, maybe they enforce it well or not. It just kind of depends. Maybe, how loud is too loud? What really qualifies?
It's very subjective.
I want to know if Chris did any racing along Woodward Avenue. Chris, was that you? Where were you on the evening of? If it was anywhere near Woodward Avenue, I have a bill to send to you. But yeah, this caught me because it's in the news where I live in the Florida Panhandle here, and same thing. So I think this new news ordinance is this noise ordinance is just a kind of a ball to kick around these days, and it's how loud is too loud for any given person. And when you're walking around with somebody down, holding hands, and you're talking, and you're in this window shopping, and this and that, and somebody tears by on a motorcycle that left its muffler 2 blocks back, or a huge truck, or the latest Supra, or whatever. I say, oh, well, that is just too doggone loud. but it's so subjective. I mean, I don't know how unless you have some sort of decibel meter, how would you know?
Right. Yep. Yeah. No, they have a similar law in Maryland. And I can say this from going to a lot of cars and coffees. There are now cops at some of them because of people revving their engines. Somebody could get hurt, right? I hate to sound like an old car mudgeon, if you will. But as I've grown up, yeah, that noise is just, it is annoying. I think people should be able to modify their cars. It is what it is, right? It's very subjective. I will say there are some cars that have active exhaust system. Even I think Ford Mustang to some degree. So you can have a quieter mode when you're leaving and then turn it up. Like, hey, that is the way to do it.
Obnoxious mode. Here, this is the best part at the end. Let me tip in with this. Back to the article, quote, first violation, the fine is completely waivable if the person uses that money to put into the vehicle to get it fixed, get it back to standard, and get it updated as needed so that it complies. But yeah, so the cops all over you. It was 300 decibels, and let me take that money and get it back to 196 decibels, which was where I started. So bananas. Anyway, yeah. Any last thoughts, Chris, before we move on?
Yeah, I need to go open a muffler shop in Detroit. I'm gonna make a killing.
This guy is smart.
You absolutely do, man. Your tax dollars at work. I love it. The only other thing, and we got to get to Chris real quick, I know, but I saw this piece, roadandtrack.com. It is called Why the Volkswagen GTI Has Always Been the Alternative of Choice. And the Rabbit GTI was the un-Camaro to Generation X. I love that, and became an icon for decades to come. And if you could just bear with me a minute, I'm just going to give you the first paragraph, and then we can slide or drift right into Chris's first car. By the way, he's got a really nice lineup. We'll have these the pictures of his cars on the site here. But let me just give you a little bit, and then I just want to bounce off you to see if this means anything to you here. So, and before I start, I had a Rabbit GTI in high school.
What year, Christian?
I did 84, and I dated this unfortunate young woman. Yes, I dated in high school. Shocking. But she had a regular Rabbit, so I had the Rabbit GTI, and she had a Rabbit. And we would go back and forth driving my car and then her car. And it was like driving a completely different car, like body roll, the acceleration, the jumping off the line. Anyway, let me give you this paragraph and then we can move on. Try to find a Gen Xer who doesn't have a memorable experience in a Volkswagen GTI somewhere in their past. My own involves high school friend Brian Schmidt firing his dad's Rabbit GTI into a curving highway off-ramp at an imprudent speed. Utterly powerless from the passenger seat, I could feel the black Rabbit pushing toward the ditch at the edge of the ramp. Its inside rear tire lifted. Rollover seemed inevitable, but there was precisely enough shoulder pavement for the car to slow sufficiently and regain control. I can't recall us ever speaking about it, and I imagine his dad never found out. Well, until now, I suppose. So the way Chris is going to break a little bit of news here today to somebody in his history, his world, just kind of spoken about in that preamble here to this article, and just kind of brought me back to when I had my car. Really a fun car. Anything from you guys on that?
I think a Volkswagen GTI might have been the first German car I drove, and I just test drove one, and I just remembered the feeling. Very, very different from an American car, Japanese car. The steering, the brakes, the shifter. It was pretty cool.
Totally agree. No, a lot of buddies had those. Really a lot of fun to drive. They always dropped them a little too much though. Hard to go over the speed bumps, but
yeah,
a lot of fun.
That's a good point. You're right about that. I forgot about that.
Yep. And they are collector's items these days. So
Indeed. Gosh, I've not seen one anywhere around here for sale. And I'm looking at so many memories flooding back. I'm looking again. This is on roadandtrack.com.
Fans of the show.
Yeah, I love it when they have a picture of the old car in here, and it looks exactly like the one you drove, from the color to the dash to the cluster to the shifter to the steering wheel. My goodness. Anyway, enough about me. Move along to our wonderful guest, Chris. Okay, so let's talk about the memories flooding back from your first ride. What was your first car?
Sure, yeah. Well, let's see. I think I was 17 years old, working at Subway, hashtag sandwich artist. And my mom pulls up in a early 90s Toyota Celica. This is a maroon color. This has got chrome wheels, giant like spoiler, and I didn't know it was my mom at first, but yeah, that was my car. She bought it at auction for probably a couple $1,000s, I think. Ended up taking me about a year to pay it off. But yeah, I didn't really care about cars before that. A lot changed after I got that car, though. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Was it a stick shift?
No, it was automatic. I didn't know how to drive a stick.
Okay, first car automatic. Same here. Yep. And if I recall, that year's Celica, that model was kind of a jelly bean, right?
Oh yeah.
It was very rounded, very 90s.
Yeah, the spoiler, it made it look even more ridiculous. But I think it was that spoiler that really got me into the import tuning culture, from basically not knowing anything about cars to being obsessed with it, within like a month or two.
Beautiful car. Love the color. Chris shared, he's got a montage of his vehicles here that he's going to share with us, and we'll put up on the site for you. Now, did you know that car was in the offing? Did you know had you picked it out? Was she bringing it to you? Was this a surprise? She just pulls up and orders a meatball sub, and here's where it is, or what? How'd that happen?
No, not exactly. She hated a meatball sub. So long story. Well, actually,
for the record.
Yeah, I used to drive around her Jeep Cherokee, and go pick all my friends up when I'm taking it out to the store, and then go out all night. And I think she got tired of that, and just surprised me with this car. It's like, hey, here's your own car, and I thought it was pretty nice. And I think my stepdad, Ramon, he actually taught me how to work on cars. I think he definitely had a hand in buying it at the auction. Complete surprise.
Yeah, so you're working on cars with him. That's interesting to me. Kind of predated the getting of this car, so you would sort of learn at his feet, or did this car, something so attractive, really kind of pull you in, and he mentored you from there?
Yeah, he had I think it was a 300Z, older 300Z.
Oh, wow.
That he would work on, and an old F-150. And yeah, I wouldn't really help him, but I'd watch him sometimes, but he didn't teach me how to do this stuff until I had my own car. That was pretty nice. Spark plugs, oil,
very nice.
Changing a tire, all the basics.
And you mentioned the import tuner. So this Celica, I know we mentioned automatic. I believe you said black. Had anything been done to it before you got it?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what, and come to think of it, but whenever I would get on the gas, like flooring it would make some kind of weird high-pitched hum sound, and it wasn't a turbo, but the car wasn't really stock. And eventually I think I floored it a little too much, because I blew the engine on that car. And that one was the Celica was red, kind of maroon colored.
Oh, red. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And same color inside too. Matching seats.
I had two red cars. Maybe I just had one, and I got two. I was probably 20. I got 2 tickets in 2 weeks of each other. Never bought a red car again.
That'll teach you. That'll teach you to have fun and be stylish.
Now in my old age, I might get a red car just so people will see me.
You should.
Yeah, it's a good color for a minivan, I hear.
Yeah, bring it all full circle. Hey, so sorry if you said this before. How long did you have the Celica?
Oh, geez, must have been, hold on, let me think. Less than 2 years. Yeah, less than 2 years until the engine went out, and then I got the Prelude after that.
Yeah. Okay, so before we move on to the Prelude, how did you live at the same house with each of these 4 cars? I'm just looking at the pictures, and it kind of looks like all these are taken at the same place, or no?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a Dallas suburb, about an hour outside of, main city Dallas. It's kind of a small highway town, I guess you could say. It's like,
I see.
cul-de-sac. We didn't even lock the cars doors at night. It was a different kind of environment than where we live now over here in Dallas. But it was nice. I had that Celica, and the Prelude lasted me through college.
I like that. Yeah, we were giving him a hard time before we chit-chat before each show, and we were talking about how I was always jealous of people that lived in a cul-de-sac, because it felt like this tight-knit community, and you had all these eyes inward looking at what was happening.
And you always knew the strange car coming by.
You did. Right? Nothing can escape that many pairs of eyes. And it's because it's a cul-de-sac. There's no through traffic. You got to turn around if you're up to no good. So I always thought that was kind of a cool, exclusive community that would never have me. Anyway.
That was a good prelude to the Honda Prelude.
Indeed.
I see what you did there.
That was a terrible pun. Tell us about the Prelude, how you found it. Obviously,
Sure.
you needed another car after the incident with the Celica.
Yeah. So the Celica engine blew, and it started me out into this import tuning culture because of the way that it came when my mom bought it. But Prelude, actually, I customized that one quite a bit more, like the performance and the visual part of it. Learned a lot more about working on cars on that one. Yeah, it was a lot more fun too. Yeah, I lowered it. I had the bigger wheels, had the bolt-on performance modifications, all the tacky, like early 2000s, visual modifications you can get, like the colorful badges and the gaudy stickers on the windshield. You name it, it was there, and loud. Probably would have broke that new law in Detroit.
Hey, retroactively, you're going to owe Detroit a lot of money. Oh, I mean Dallas, some city. But
was that car mostly stock, and you modified it along the way?
Oh, yeah. I bought a stock from a local dealer. It lasted me a long time. Got me all the way to college. Maybe it's because it's a Honda. I don't know.
Yep,
yeah.
probably. I remember, if it's the right car, I remember when Honda came out with that, and it had a really neat dash, and it had two digital gauges off to the right.
Yeah. I remember that dash of that Prelude. It was probably I wish they would bring that back. You see it in games like video games like Cyberpunk, with these 80s style dashes in cars, and like it's all just reminds you of like one of those 80s watches you wear. It's super cool. I love that dash, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Was there any before we talk about what you might have done actually tie it all, what was like your favorite feature of that car, whether it's the work you did or what the car came with? Like, to me, it was, hey, you went a little digital. That was cool. But you probably have something else.
Yeah, I think the VTEC. Love the VTEC engine. That one did have the VTEC. Some of them didn't, but that one did. I think it was one of the first Hondas to get VTEC, actually. Just with the custom exhaust and the VTEC, you get this. Once you get past 6,000 RPM, it's just wake up the neighborhood.
Yeah. I had a 02 Honda S2000, so yeah, I'm familiar with that. Really, no power down low, but once over $6,000 to $9,000, right? The VTEC kicked in, and it was like a push, like a shove.
Yep.
It was a cool car. So yeah, big fan. Maybe the spiritual successor to the Prelude. But you did some mods to it, right? And you did some work in the, I guess, in the family garage, right?
No, we didn't have a garage. I just did it on the outside, cul-de-sac. Actually had a couple accidents out there a couple times. The neighbors came out to kind of save my my hand or my leg, whatever the case may be.
Whoa.
Nice thing about the cul-de-sac.
You didn't drive over your hand or anything.
No, I didn't really get all of the lessons that my stepdad taught me, and I had a couple jack failures and tools that I didn't use in the right way under the hood, and I had one situation where I was adjusting the coilovers. I don't know if y'all remember coilovers.
Ooh.
I was adjusting the coilovers on this Prelude, and jack failed, and my wrist got stuck between the tire and the wheel well, and so I was stuck and yelling, and the neighbor came out to help. It's a good guy, Dave. Still remember him. The things you learn.
Let's hear it for the cul-de-sac.
The cul-de-sac crew.
So what happened to that Prelude? It got you through college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So moved from the small town to Dallas proper. Had that car. I was actually on the highway one time, and I wasn't watching where I was going, and some guy with the trailer pretty much just his sideswiped me. But I still drove for a while, but ended up selling it to one of those cash for cars people. I think it was about $600. Actually, no, that's not right. It was only like $200-$300 when they bought it. Piece of junk by the time it was done, though. A lot of good memories in that car. But sold it for parts probably.
Yep. Sounds like a parts car, but yeah, neat. And so, gotta ask. Obviously, you have lots of cars, but what was the follow-up car? Where do you go from Celica to Prelude? Did you get a Ferrari next? Where'd you go?
No, I had I guess you could call it a spacer car, because it wasn't a fun car at all. Ended up buying a 1990 Dodge Spirit, which was like a kid car. It was a light blue. Definitely didn't help me in the girlfriend department in college. And it ran. I think I bought it for about $800 out in Oklahoma, and I had that for a couple of years until I think almost finished college. Then I got a different Honda. Yeah, but a 1990 Spirit, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I have a funny story. You're bringing me back. My mom had a probably 1990 Dodge Spirit. She ended up getting the one with the V6, and very into cars. I think I had a Dodge Daytona back then, but this car had a V6. We had this high school friend, and he had this probably 1985 Nissan 300ZX, like the big wedge, and he was always bragging how fast it was. So we went on this road that nobody went on, and we lined the cars up, and I beat him in my mom's Dodge of all cars, and he was just destroyed over it. Now, it was 5 years newer, but this was a sports car, right? This was my mom's car. It had a lot of torque.
And your mom will only discover that listening to this episode right now. So we break news. That's us breaking 30-year-old news as quickly as possible. I think the newsmakers call that a scoop.
Yeah, I hope my mom's not listening. Oops.
A retroactive grounding.
Yeah, so we were kind of Nissan fans. I ended up with my best friend had a 300ZX, a 1990 car I always wanted, but I ended up getting a 240SX, which was really it was a great car. And, I actually own a 90 300ZX right now. It's like 5 different colors, but that's a whole other story. But the 240s, wow, that is like a tuner car. It was a great car. No, I didn't do anything to it, but it handled really well. It was just very well tuned. I called it the spiritual successor to the original Datsun 240Z.
Oh, yeah.
It looked a little bit like it. It was just a really great car. Have you ever seen those, Chris?
Oh, yeah. I got a lot of storied history with the 240SX. Coolest car. So my brother actually had 2 of those. Oh, this is my older brother. So 240 number 1, it was a hatchback, right?
That's what mine was. It was at 89.
Nice. I think his was maybe the same. I don't remember. But it's funny because he went on a trip, I think, and I surprised him when he got home by installing a short ram air intake on his 240 just to give it a little pep. Like I needed more for sound. But his second 240SX, we were living together in college, and it was a 95, so it's a different body style.
Okay, yeah, second gen. Yep.
And if he's going to be listening to this, he's going to kill me. But I used to take that car out at night when he was sleeping because I wanted to learn how to drift, and I hadn't driven a rear-wheel drive car before. And yeah, I'd take it out to like a abandoned parking garage and have some fun with it. And eventually he would ask me, he's like, "Hey, what'd you do to my car?" And of course, I denied everything. And, but it was all me. Sorry, man. After I think it's almost 20 years later, it was me. Sorry. But, you got a car dealership now, so I think you're okay.
Indeed. Yeah.
So a lot of love for cars in the family, obviously. Car dealership.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's got a car dealership out here in Dallas. About smaller one, it's not like the giant ones.
Cool. We should have him on the show.
Oh yeah.
If you're still alive after this episode, feel free to give him our contact info.
We'll edit all of that out for a fee. Let's talk about your current car a little bit. I'm curious about this.
Yeah. I was right before the pandemic, I guess. I bought it's only a couple of years old now, I guess, maybe a little bit before the pandemic. Subaru WRX, and I've always wanted an all-wheel drive turbo car that was new, not used. Because if you've ever bought a used WRX, it's just a time bomb. Because it's probably been used, probably been abused. But yeah, it's
yep. Probably a tuner like yourself. Somebody's brother took it out in the middle of the night. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But mine's I call it stock plus because even though it's fast and capable of being a full-fledged sports car with modifications, I've kept it stock because I love the way the car drives, and I couldn't be happier with the way it drives in stock format. It's not the latest model; it's one right before they added the bigger engine, but it is a lot of fun. Every day I drive it. Almost every day I drive it to gym or somewhere else, and I love it to death. Took it out at the track once. There's a track out here called Motorsport Ranch, and they let you, for it's not even that expensive. It's just like a small fee. You pay a small fee, and they teach you how to drive on the track, and they let you at it. Probably get a good hour of track time, and it's got a lot of corners. It's maybe a mile from start to finish track, maybe a little more, but it's a lot of fun out there, especially in that car.
I was just about to say, you got the right car for it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm an amateur.
With the instruction and whatnot, how fast? I assume this is an oval track, right? Something like that.
Oh no. It's got a lot of corners, and I think the fastest you can actually get up to, well, in my car, which my car's not slow, but it's not, it's not like a Stingray. I got it up to about 90, and then it's just constant. Learned a lot about driving, like on the track. Like it's just constant flooring it, and then constant hard braking for a long period of time. It really learned a lot about driving that day.
Yeah. And I bet you were exhausted afterwards, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just stopping, turning, right? I don't know how long it was. And actually, one of our previous guests who also lives in Dallas, he had taken his Infiniti, I want to say it was G35, G37, to a track out there. It might have been the exact same track.
Might have been. It's pretty popular.
Yep.
Yeah. It's in a Crescent.
That sounds like such a blast. I feel cheated that I don't have one near me. Can we get the link to that and kind of put that on the site? It just sounds like so much fun.
The company that puts it on is called Track Night in America. They have a lot of different tracks they go to. I think it was like $150, and yeah, you get the helmet, the training, and then you get to go out there like 3 or 4 times. It's great.
Wow, that is a good deal. How long do you have for that amount?
I think I went out 4 times,
Okay.
and it's about 15 to 20 minutes each.
Okay.
And there's rules. I broke a couple of them because I'm an amateur.
Mm-hmm.
They flagged me down a couple of times. Not
Yeah.
proud of that, but learned a lot.
Took out some cones, things like that.
The cones had it coming.
Yeah, definitely keep your windows down. Your front 2 windows are going to flag you for it.
Yep. Yeah, because you got to be able to hear them and vice versa. Yep, absolutely.
Good deal. Well, we are at, I knew this would happen. I knew once we got into it, time would fly. We're past 30 minutes, but Chris does what we found to be some really interesting volunteer work. So this is the part of the show where we just sort of pause and let the guests speak about their causes and things that they're passionate about. Could be automotive related or not. And Chris, if you would like to share what you had shared with us on your dossier, I'd love that.
Sure. Let's see, about 6 years ago, I wanted to, I work in tech software. It's kind of, busy work, and I wanted to actually spend my time doing something good. So I started doing some volunteer work for, it's mostly just administrative work for a hospice organization. And, that's doesn't take a lot of effort.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but bless your soul on a hospice. Those people are angels. Bless your soul. That is such an amazing mission. It's touched my life. Same with Doug. I didn't mean to interrupt. Please continue.
No, good. And I do not want to take a lot of credit for this because I don't actually go and volunteer like a lot of really, really good people do. I just do some admin work because,
it takes a team. It takes a team. Yeah, that's great, man.
Yeah, but really where my passion lies is the work I do, volunteer work for my, there's 2 different nonprofits I do work. And we're basically trying to create the designs for space habitation. 1 for Luna, which is the moon, and 2 for Mars. And we have a couple different concepts that were thrown at some of the big space conferences coming up. Companies are the nonprofits I work for. They're Mars Foundation and the Space Development Network. And right now, we're working on a concept for retrofitting the Starship into I think there'll be 3-floor habitat for people to be living on the moon for more than like a couple of days. And we're showing that pretty soon. But we've made a lot of different concepts in the past couple of years. Actually, it's about a year now I've been doing work for them for different habitats on Mars and the moon.
How did you get involved in that? And what, we've all looked up and say, hey, there's some cool stuff going on, but you went and did something with it. I'm just wondering how you got connected with these guys.
Yeah. So I was on a trail walk with my buddy Evan. Maybe he's listening. And he asked me what I would do if I could do anything. And I'd say I'd create the communities that we're going to be living on in Mars and, in the future. And so I actually watched some YouTube videos about this a couple of days later and saw some of the guys that are actually making waves in this space and reached out to one of them. And he got me connected to the other one. And I mostly work with 2 guys right now that do this. They're really connected in the industry.
That's awesome.
Thank you for sharing. That's important work. You're a passionate guy about a lot of things and definitely about what you just shared with us. So as we come up on the end of this episode, just wanted to touch briefly on some of our stats. If we look out over the past 7 days, we can see that we are being listened to in 8 countries and territories, 81 cities, everywhere from Virginia, Mid-Atlantic, or the Florida Gulf Coast, which is understandable because that's where the 2 co-hosts hail from. But top apps where people get a hold of us, only 62% of our audience comes from Apple Podcasts. 18% come from the web browser, which I thought was interesting. 6% from Spotify. I thought that number would be higher. And then Overcast and Chromecast in single digits. This is the part that I love to geek out on. The last 5 episodes, top countries and territories. Only 90% from the United States, 4% from Germany, 3% Canada, 1% from United Kingdom, and 0%, that must be rounding error from Australia. So we're truly around the world. Thanks for everyone who boosts, shares, posts, and tells by word of mouth. We appreciate it all. And that's how we grow and widen the audience. And for the show to survive, it grows. Just want to thank you, Chris, so much for being on the show. It was just great to get to know you. Very interesting guy with a fantastic memory, sense of humor. And thanks for your passion and volunteer work. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. And we should mention how we got connected with Chris in this wonderful connected world. So one of our previous podcast guests, Dora, who apparently is, I haven't driven with her. She's a good friend, but I think she was neighbors with you, Chris, her and her husband. And as you know, she has a passion for cars, but you guys were neighbors. And maybe you could tell real quick if she told you about the podcast after she was on it. Just wondering how we all got connected.
Sure. Yeah. So Dora and Andreas, great friends. So I know Andreas before he met Dora. We were neighbors when he lived in Dallas. And I go out to Austin and visit him sometimes. And love hanging out with them. Good people. I think last time I saw them, they were back here in Dallas on a trip. But yeah, I will say one thing. I've driven on the track, and 20 years ago I've been on the street race. But when Dora drives, oh my Lord, she is the fastest driver I think I've ever been in a passenger seat with. Wow.
Street racing without the title or culture.
Yeah, and not like an impatient driver. She just drives fast because she likes driving fast.
Oh yeah, and she'll do it while on the phone and type an email at the same time.
Oh, noted, Dora. Be careful.
Not to start a beef, but I think we did. It's what we do. We stir the pot.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll have Dora back on sometime soon. And Chris, love to have you on. Your brother, your friends, tell them about the show. CarsLove.com. And of course, Christian mentioned several of the podcast platforms. We're on all the major ones. Please follow. We're going to do some mixing up of things for season 2, where we're going to have some guest hosts that actually interview Christian and or myself on different episodes. We both have a lot to talk about cars, probably me more than anyone versus Christian at least, but big fan of cars. And, thanks to Christian for pushing me to start this. Love having him as my co-host. And yeah, we're going to have some fun. So please just follow, subscribe, whatever you got to do. We're going to have new episodes coming out, and season 2 is going to have some twists.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Great. Check us out. CarsLove.com, Doug at CarsLove.com, or Christian at CarsLove.com. To all the cars I've loved before on all the platforms where you stream your podcast. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next time.